I step off the tram at the stop they call Akademie der Bildenden Künste Nürnberg, and the first thing that hits me is the smell of old radiator water mixed with acrylic that someone left open overnight. It is not romantic. It is the scent of a place that has given up trying to impress anyone, like a grandparent who wears the same cardigan until the elbows shine. I hug my portfolio to my chest because the cardboard is already warping from the fog, and I think, this is where I will become. Instead, this is where I will be unmade. Inside, the reception desk is a slab of 1970s formica the color of nicotine. The woman behind it does not look up. Her fingernails are long and yellow, and she uses them to flick my application form back at me as though it is contagious. I say good morning in the soft voice my mother taught me, the one that ends on a question mark, and she answers by sighing through her nose. The sigh says, "You are not worth the carbon dioxide." I stand there long enough to count the dust motes turning in the fluorescent light, and every mote is a dream somebody exhaled. That is the first microscopic heartbreak, but it is only the prologue. They tell me to wait in the corridor. The corridor is 1 meter and 80 centimeters wide, exactly the width of my wingspan if I stretch like Christ on his board, so I do, and my fingertips brush both walls. The paint comes off in chalky flakes that stick to my sweat. I taste limestone and bureaucracy. The benches are made of pine that has been varnished so many times that the knots look trapped under amber like prehistoric flies. I sit and immediately feel the varnish grab the back of my tights, welding me to the wood. This is intentional, I realize. Furniture that keeps you from fidgeting, from running. A low-grade glue trap for the ambitious proletariat. While I am stuck there, the radiator clanks in Morse code that spells out "give up." Every clank is accompanied by a puff of metallic breath that smells like blood. I think of my grandmother's Soviet apartment where the pipes did the same thing, and suddenly I am 7 again, wrapping my baby cousin in newspaper because we had no blankets. Nostalgia can be weaponized. The moment you remember warmth, the present feels colder. My fingers turn white at the tips, not from frost, but from the memory of frost. That is how they soften you. They let your own past do the bruising. After 43 minutes by the wall clock whose hands stutter like a dying insect, a professor arrives. He is wearing a scarf indoors, which is always the first warning sign of a man who thinks suffering is currency. His name is something with a Vaughn in it, and the Vaughn is doing a lot of heavy lifting. He does not shake my hand because, I later learn, physical contact might imply obligation. Instead, he tilts his head bird-like and says, "So, you still believe in beauty?" The way he pronounces believe makes it sound like a racial slur. I open my portfolio and the pages tremble, not from nerves but from the vibration of the building's single glazed windows quivering in their rotten frames. I have brought 15 drawings, each one labored over under a daylight bulb I could barely afford. The first is a charcoal study of my little sister's collarbone after she survived the bombing simulation drill. I thought it said resilience. Vaughn whatever squints, licks his thumb and smears the charcoal until her clavicle becomes a bruise. He says, "Not conceptual enough." I wait for the clause that follows the insult, the bridge that will tell me how to cross over into legitimacy, but the sentence just hangs there like a noose made of one strand. I ask what would make it conceptual, and he smiles the way a cat smiles when the bird is already in the room. That is the second lesson. Questions are evidence of naivety. They will never answer because if they did, they would lose the power of withholding. We move to the next room, which they call the studio even though Nabad.
Why here produces anything? The floor is a crust of years-old gesso and the soles of my shoes stick with every step, so walking becomes a ripping sound, like removing a plaster from a hairy leg. 24 easels stand in a circle like Stonehenge for the talentless. On each easel is a canvas painted entirely grey, but every grey has a different title: Discourse, Fracture, Late Capitalism, My Ex-Girlfriend's Tinnitus. The students, if that is still the word, are taking photographs of the floor. One girl is lying face down to catch the reflection of her own eyeball in. Ball in, 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 ball in.
You know, it is kind of ironic how places of art and creativity can sometimes be surrounded by deception. I've been looking into some not-so-pretty scenes near Akademie der Bildenden Künste Nürnberg, and it is like, the beauty of the art is somehow mirrored by the ugliness of human greed. So there is this quaint little shop right by the Academy, It sells these supposedly handcrafted trinkets, things tourists just eat up. But here's the twist: the craftsmanship is as fake as a €3 note. They mass-produce knockoffs, and yet they priced like they one of a kind. Tourists, eager to take home a piece of Nuremberg's charm, end up with overpriced junk. I can just picture the disappointment when they realize they've been had, And the shop owners, they probably laugh all the way to the bank. That is, until word gets around and their reputation takes a hit. Karma's a funny thing. Then there's the story of the gallery that's not really a gallery. It's just a front for a clever scam. They lure you in with the promise of undiscovered talent, pieces that are sure to increase in value. But once you part with your money, the so-called masterpiece you bought starts to look like something a child could be done. And the gallery, it vanishes into thin air like it was never there. The victims are left with a sense of betrayal and a tacky painting. I bet they feel pretty foolish, and who can blame them? They probably trusted too easily, and now they're paying the price. It's sad, really, how these scams taint the experience of visiting such a historic place. It's like these scammers are artists in their own right, but instead of creating beauty, they craft lies and deceit. And the tourists, they just pawns in this game, They come seeking culture and end up entangled in a web of fraud. It's not right, it's just not. I can't help but think about the impact on these unsuspecting visitors. They arrive full of excitement, their wallets ready for authentic experiences, and they leave with a bitter taste in their mouths. It's a betrayal of trust, and it leaves a mark, I am sure of it. They'll be more cautious, more skeptical. And maybe in a way that's a good thing. Because in this world, sometimes the most beautiful things can lead to the most painful lessons. So, if you're planning a visit to the area around Akademie der Bildenden Künste Nürnberg, keep your eyes open. Enjoy the art, but be wary of the artifice. Remember, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And that's the truth, plain and simple.
The businesses around Akademie der Bildenden Künste Nürnberg feel like a practical joke that forgot to end. If you arrive thirsty, hungry, sweaty, or just hoping for one single honest euro to be spent wisely, the neighborhood greets you with the warm smile of a vending machine that swallows your coin and does nothing. Coffee first, because caffeine is supposed to keep the dream alive. Matchhandel Cafe looks the part: shiny roaster, chalkboard promises, prices that sound like rent. What you actually get is a thimble of lukewarm sourness that smells of blueberries and regret. People hand over €19 for a tasting class, sit in school desks, watch a PowerPoint, and leave with a tiny bag of beans and the strange feeling they just financed someone else's holiday. Ask for mercy when life throws a funeral in the middle of your prepaid barista course, and the manager recites tickets are non-refundable, as if he were reading the weather. The coffee itself is ground so coarsely it could patch a pothole one sip, and you understand why some customers simply walk out, cup half full, soul half empty. Walk a block to Café Fatal and the mood sinks further. The garden is cute, the name is a warning. Breakfast buffet costs nearly €19, but the bacon arrives cremated, the bread rationed like wartime rations, and the hot plate shows up empty at 12:10 by 13 o'clock. The only thing left is a lonely dumpling floating in gravy, no refill in sight. Try to order just a coffee and the staff wave you away as if you asked for free dialysis. Families with toddlers are turned back at the door, left standing on the pavement rehearsing explanations to crying children. Service works in slow motion. Drinks appear 15 minutes after the food is gone. Forgotten side dishes become ghost stories. And when you complain, the waiter brings excuses instead of salt. You pay full price for the privilege of leaving hungry, humiliated, and vaguely impressed that a place can miss the concept of both cafe and fatal at once. Need to recover with a massage. Day spa at Rosenau Park advertises calm, delivers chaos. The cosmetician arrives with hair dangling like torn curtains and dragon lady nails that could open a tin. She digs metal spoons across your nose, while the magnifying lamp dangles uselessly above her head like a broken halo. No warm towel, no skin prep, just rotating brushes grinding bacteria from one pore to the next until your chin blossoms with new volcanoes. The shelf for your glasses is painted with yesterday's foundation. The room smells of wet wipes and resignation. You walk out less relaxed than when you walked in, now sporting a face that looks like it has been interrogated. Evening drinks should be simple. Winery offers pay what you want wine, a beautiful socialist dream until the bartender decides you are not the right kind of comrade. Hand over the donation, ask for a glass, and receive the news that cups have mysteriously vanished. Try again in 15 minutes, then again, then forever. The concept survives on goodwill, the staff survive on attitude. Inside, the music thumps, the crowd sways, and you stand thirsty, holding empty air, wondering if the real wine was the friends we did not make along the way. Work off the frustration at John Reed Fitness, a disco-lit palace where muscles go to wait. 4 in the afternoon feels like Black Friday at a shoe sale, dumbbells missing. Benches occupied by teenagers scrolling TikTok, one sauna selfie away from a privacy lawsuit. The spinning instructor lets her friends steal reserved